It's as you usher her.
You are putting me on a weird
Sorry, sorry. Can I go back now? Can I go
Okay,
back now?
so I'm very tall, so I need to move this back. Good morning, everybody. Do you have anything on? So my name is Benedicta Ogar, and I am a hospitality consultant. Um, so for me, my hospitality journey started after my visit to my mom at Obudukatu Ranch. So she used to work there, and I remember visiting once, and the entire experience was just very interesting. It was the best thing I had felt and I had seen because I was there for like a month. And I remember going back to school because I was studying European languages. So I went back to school and I was like, oh, this is something that I would really, really like to do, you know. And Obudukasu Ranch then was run by Proti Hotel, so it was just a great experience. But then I finished European languages and I was doing my NYC in Abuja. And when the opportunity came, I took up the opportunity and went to study hospitality management in Switzerland. So my topic is the reason I'm going into the story because we're going to see why it's very important to tell this story. So from Switzerland, they were like, oh, you need to do a management training program, all of that. And that's how I ended up in Disneyland in Paris. After that, I came back to Nigeria and I was like, okay, I worked for a bit and my employer kept pointing me towards, oh, I think you have a thing with people, you know, my staff, they've been different since you came. Do you want to explore that? So after I left that job where I was a manager, I went to another school in America where I studied hospitality behavior and human resources. Now, I remember after school coming back and I went for interviews. I was trying to get a job. I didn't plan to get like a manager's job. I just wanted a job, whether front office or whatever. And the first job I got, they told me the salary was 30,000. And I looked at the man and I said, did you take a look at my CV? And the guy said, it doesn't matter. 30,000 is what I want to pay, and that's what I'm able to pay. I was like, wow. And I went back home. I went through this process because I went to different hotels. I went through this process for like 3 months. And after a while, I'm like, why didn't I do this research before going to study hospitality? So I was doing a calculation like, did I just waste my time? Did I waste my money? This money does not make sense to me. I kept complaining and complaining. And my dad just said, just try, you know, you find something. And finally, one of the properties I had approached later called me and said, oh, the manager, there was a problem. He had to go back because he was an expatriate. And they said, we think you can fill in for this guy, you know, while the new manager that we have employed will come in because you don't have the experience, you just have the education. I was like, okay. You know, I spoke to my mentor at the time and he said, the best thing for you to do is just get your foot in the door, you know, just gain the experience, just do it. I was like, okay, that's fine. And I did that. So the guy was meant to come in after 1 month. So the guy postponed again and said his employer said he has to do another month. There's a problem. And that's how I spent 2 months. And then by the second month, the owner said, Benedicta, I think you're really doing fine in this role. So we think you should just continue. And this was a manager role, an operations manager. So that's how I continued in the role. So now let's come back to the topic I'm handling. And this is leveraging rewards as a catalyst for enhancing productivity in the workplace. I would like someone to give me an idea of what they think rewards is. When we talk about rewards in the workplace, what are we looking at as employees now? Who can help? Is this on?
I will say it's acknowledgement of maybe for a year you can pick the best staff from each department. That's a reward.
Okay. So that's acknowledgement
I think reward will be showing appreciation.
Okay? So that's appreciation from either the owners or the management to the staff. Do we have any other examples?
Recognition.
Okay, recognition, acknowledgement. We'll take one more.
For me, incentive.
Incentives. Okay, now we're getting there. Somebody else has one more thing.
Increment of salary from time to time.
Okay, now we're getting to the most important part when it comes to rewards, because as someone looking for a job, the first thing on my mind is, whether we like it or not, is how much do I get paid, right? So as employers, we employ people and then we're looking at what do they bring to us. I think what we fail to realize is people are also looking at us and say, what do you have for me? So sometimes when I'm interviewing people and I say, okay, what are your expectations of us as a company? You find that a lot of employees, they don't really know what to say. And I think we can start putting the right things in place when we start as employers and owners having those conversations with people as to what the expectations of the company and the management is. So we'll get to that point. And I'm addressing that because I don't think we can have a rewards conversation without looking at the people doing the job, right? And it's nice to address this for hospitality, because I don't think we can talk about performance at all without looking at the people that we're employing. You know, and when I say the people, it's not what kind of people are we attracting? What kind of people are working in the hospitality industry? You know, for so long, the narrative has been very flawed about hospitality. And I remember Dr. Belinda saying yesterday that for a very long time, even till now, she still has to convince. LBS is major, it's big, but you still have to spend time convincing people that, okay, this is an actual industry. You know, we have professionals in this industry. And that's because once they hear that, oh, you're in hospitality, the first thing that comes to mind is maybe you're a waiter or a waitress, right? So let's go over an introduction, then we'll come back to this point. So we all know that productivity is the lifeblood of any thriving business. It drives growth, innovation, and ultimately sustainable success. And one of the most effective ways to boost productivity and retain your employees is through a well-designed and thoughtfully implemented reward system. Our industry is very fast-paced and competitive, so we understand the significance of a highly motivated and engaged workforce. We recognize that our employees are the driving force behind every exceptional guest experience and the success of our establishments. It is within this context that we must explore the potential of the reward system to unlock the potential of our teams. So until we start to look at what we need to provide to the employees for them to give the best to our companies, I don't think we would have started achieving anything, not to talk of, you know, maximizing their performance. So let's define reward systems. So these are the procedures, the rules, and the standards that are created by a company and associated with the allocation of benefits and compensation to employees. This is all the monetary, non-monetary, psychological payments that an organization provides for its employees in exchange for the work that they do. And this system consists of financial, non-financial rewards, and has emerged as an essential component in the realm of human resource management. Whether we like it or not, it's very important, with a profound impact on employee motivation, engagement, and productivity. So you cannot really separate the rewards that you provide from their motivation, their engagement, and their productivity. So with this training, we are going to shed some light on the critical role of effective reward systems in driving workplace productivity within the hospitality industry. By implementing well-designed and strategically aligned reward systems, organizations can create an environment that fosters high performance, job satisfaction, and ultimately long-term success. So now, do we think the reward system in hospitality is encouraging at all? Why? Do you think it's encouraging? And do you think it affects the quality of people that we attract to the industry? Does somebody want to talk about that? Okay.
My opinion is this, and from my experience. If you pay peanuts, you get peanut service. So, for example, you have a business across the road that pays, let's say, a receptionist 30,000 naira, like the first experience she had, and you have another business across just your business that pays 60,000 naira. There's a very high chance that you get people that want to go to. So eventually what you're going to be getting is those that were not able to get that business, leftovers will be the people you'll be attracting. So that is my experience.
Okay. Do we have someone else with a different idea? Okay.
Okay, so hotels and hospitality sector has become like a transition for most people. So it's just like a point of hibernation while transitioning through their career. That's because of the pay, but also the moral construct of the Nigerian system.
Okay, so like he said, it's a transition point for most people. You know, first because of the pay, and then maybe later the moral construct. I think with the kind of pay that we have in the industry, nobody is encouraged to be a graduate, finish school, go through like all sorts of training, and then you come out, and what you want to be is somebody that works in the front office and all of that because of the salary. People go to school, they graduate, they come out, and they want to work in banks. Because even aside from the salary, there's a lot of other like bonuses, incentives, and things that you get from working in that position. So now we begin to see that what we pay or the reward system in the industry is a very strong factor when it comes to the kind of people that we attract. I remember when I was doing my internship in Disneyland, I had colleagues and friends that were graduates. I had people that had been there for like 10 years. I met a woman, she had actually, because Disney was turning 20, Disney Paris was turning 20 the year I was there, and she had been there from when they opened. Now, why is that possible? Because first, they are going to earn almost the same with anybody that works in any other industry. So why can't I consider that kind of industry and want to be there? But in Nigeria, like he said, it's either you haven't found a job, you have not gotten what you really would want to do, and then you're like, let me do this for now. Now, the commitment, the engagement, and the results you're going to get from somebody that sees the industry as a stopgap is totally different from, for example, me, that actually took my money, even though I didn't do my salary research before, but I took my money and I went to school and I studied hospitality operation. Nobody is saying you cannot learn on the job. Now, it's the mindset with which you come into the industry. I'm just here because I haven't found something else. It's different from somebody that says, this is where I want to be. So now, with the rewards that we have, who is really encouraged to come in and say, this is where I want to be? I went to a restaurant and I met a woman, and she told me she had worked there for 11 years. Because most times I try to engage people when I go to these places. And this woman's salary was still 60,000. I don't know of anybody that will be encouraged when they know that, okay, this person has been here for 10, 11 years, like at what point do we realize that if somebody has committed this much time to your business and to the industry, there should be, like a growth. And she was still a waitress. So why is she not a supervisor? Why is she not, maybe an F&B manager? What's in the system that has, hindered her growth? Or even if you're not giving them bigger positions, maybe because of the size of the company, what about the salaries, right? Okay, so let's continue. Now, even though we're talking about money, there are different types of rewards. There are different types of rewards. So there's extrinsic, which is the external and tangible. So that will be money, bonuses, promotions, and all those other things. Then there's the intrinsic one, which relates to the feeling that you have in doing what you're doing and providing the service that you provide. So now, let's look at the objectives. Why do we provide rewards? Or what is it supposed to achieve? So the rewards are supposed to support the goals of the organization by aligning it with the goals of the employee. So an employee is coming with expectations, and then the company has expectations of the employee. So as you're setting the KPIs, you can say, okay, if you're able to achieve this, you get this. It's only natural that once you do that, people would, push more and say, okay, I want to be able to achieve this because I'm going to get this. So, and what you're getting can be monetary, it can be a gift, it can be a pay raise, it can be a promotion at some point, it can be different things. So in this reward system you're designing, attach it to the goals of the company. Because that way, as you are achieving your goals, the employees are also getting, something from it. And that way, they're more motivated. And reward systems are designed to attract the right people with the right skills. Obviously, ours is not attracting. We have some amazing people in the industry, but we can tell that when it comes to the majority, we do not really attract the right people, neither do we attract people with the right skills, and then we still do not want to make the investment to upskill these people that we have employed, because according to us, owners and managers, it costs money, right? And then it's not just using this reward system to bring them in. You have to be able to satisfy them, and then you have to be able to retain them. And I remember Mr. Benga said, when he spoke earlier, he said when he goes to any company, he's not planning to spend more than 3 years. But guess what? Even within the 3 years that he's there, the company still has expectations of him. And he also has expectations of the company. And there's a way the reward system will be set up that he will be able to give almost everything he can or what the company requires within that time frame. Then also, your reward systems as you design them must be affordable, because we're still looking at cost. The owner is concerned with his bottom line and all of that. So you cannot go and say, oh, because somebody met one deadline, you want to buy them a Prado SUV. It has to be affordable. You have to consider the revenue of the company and the window that you have to provide the rewards. Then the major thing about reward system is motivation. So you're supposed to motivate the employee. Now, we also need to understand that at different levels, what motivates people is different. As an entry-level staff, maybe I'm a waiter and I'm a waitress, what would motivate me will be different from what will motivate the manager of the company. So I think even for some people that provide some sort of reward, we find that it's the same thing for everybody. But at that point, even the manager might be like, I'm not interested in this because I've gone above this. So you cannot, in your design of your reward system, put the same benefits for a lower level staff and that of management. Okay, let's take an example, Maslow's hierarchy. Sorry, I haven't moved this thing. So let's go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the bottom level, you find that the need is more physiological. The person is just trying to get a job. He just wants to be able to buy food. He wants to be able to buy water. He just wants to be able to get shelter over his head, and buy maybe 1 or 2 clothes at the end of every month. That's basic. But as it goes up, you now see that, now that person is able to afford those things. So that's no longer a motivation. Now what he wants is security, job security. I want to feel safe. The need is increasing. And then the next thing, social. I want to feel like I belong to this company. I want to feel like I'm a part of something. And then after that, there's the esteem, self-esteem. Am I respected? Am I appreciated? Which is where you now start. This from here now, you're having like the supervisors and the managers. Do they appreciate me? How do I feel working in this place? Those things start to become important. So what a lower level staff will accept, in how you treat them, a top-level staff might not be able to, because now they have options, right? And then as it goes up, the person is like, I don't care about money. I don't even care about all these things, but am I actualizing my life goals, my dreams, my ambitions? Because now I'm at the top level. So it's no longer, I met somebody, he was a director for, I think, General Electric, Sub-Saharan Africa, one of the departments. He kept telling me, I want to resign. I'm like, because I have an idea what the salary alone. And I said, why would you leave such a job? Even if you have something else that you want to achieve, you can still do this. He said, no, but I don't care. He said, and the company was telling him they wanted to double his money. And he said, I don't need that. Because at that point, he just wants to feel like, okay, I've actualized something. Is there a business idea I've always had? Because they have all the money that they need. So Maslow says, from bottom to top, there are different things that people need. And he says that monetary rewards is for lower level. As you go up, it's no longer about money, and at the top is more focused on growth, recognition, and self-actualization. But somebody else has a different theory. That's Herzberg. Herzberg says, increasing rewards can only motivate employees temporarily, because we also have to be careful. After a while, you get too familiar with these things and you're no longer motivated. So it suggests that you should install a generator in the employees so that they can recharge their own batteries. What is he saying? At this point, ask each person what it would take to get them motivated. What I find important is not important to the next person. The lunch or buffet ticket you are giving me might not be what Justina likes. Justina might want you to use that same money to pay for HMC conference. But I'm okay with just, spending that whole 50 or 100,000 naira on food. So Herzberg is saying you have to engage each person and then find out what it would take to motivate them. So now, there are some key principles when it comes to designing reward system. So it has to align with the organizational goals and values. That's one. Secondly, there has to be a clear communication of the criteria and the expectations and the potential reward. So everybody knows that if I do 1, 2, 3, I get 4. Not that, if Chichi does 1, 2, 3, they give us 7. But if I do 1, 2, 3, I get 3. Because what that does is no longer motivating, because there's already somebody else that is getting something different from what you are getting. So even though it's supposed to motivate you, at that point it doesn't motivate you because it is not clear, it is not transparent. Because you're now saying, is there something else Chichi is doing that is making her 7? So now the time you should spend doing work for the company, your mind is busy thinking about what could she be doing differently. So your reward system has to be clear, and the criteria, the expectations, and the rewards. Then there has to be fairness and transparency. If we're at the same level and you've set the same KPIs for us, if we achieve it, let it be the same thing. Because, favoritism is a thing in companies. I understand that as human beings, definitely you might like one person more than the other, but it's your job as a manager. That cannot be known. by the next person. So personalization to meet individual needs and preference. In hiring and in engaging people, you can find out what they like, what is important to them. I like training, he likes to travel. So maybe at that level, next time, send me on a trip and send him on a training. At that point, I'm happy because you're giving me what I want. You're giving me what I like to have. Okay, let's move forward now to, so what we take out from the other two theories is monetary rewards alone is not sufficient. So for most people, it has to be half and half. Give me some money and give me something else that money cannot buy. So that's the motivation that most people get. So why are reward systems so critical? The answer lies in the undeniable link between rewards, motivation, and productivity. So rewards are widely recognized as highly influential motivators that can significantly enhance your job satisfaction. When employees feel valued and recognized for their contributions, like some people said earlier, they become motivated to give their best effort. It's only natural. And then the extent to which employees trust management to acknowledge and reward their contribution often determines how they evaluate their own performance. So it's almost like, I'm not even going to go the extra mile. Even when I do it, they don't recognize it, they don't see it. So why do I have to do it? So when people put like the extra work, it should be recognized. And as a manager, you should be like, oh, you did that, I saw it, thank you so much. Because they will tell you, okay, I didn't have to go the extra mile, but I went, and nobody saw it, nobody said anything about it. So now, let's look at a report from Deloitte. Deloitte said companies that take the time to design a great reward system tend to do for like 14% more than companies that do not have like a proper reward system in place. So I want to invite you to expand your perception of reward systems beyond monetary compensation for your staff. Money is good, right? And rewards can encompass like a wide spectrum of incentives, recognition, and benefits in the hospitality industry. Money or salary, which is a tangible reward, holds its importance, and we cannot continue to act like we are not aware of the psychology of the average Nigerian worker. The average Nigerian worker wants money. They want to be paid properly. We cannot continue to pay people the way we pay people and expect magic from them. Now, it's easy as a manager to say, leave your problems at the gates, or don't come in with your problems, you're a customer service person. But how easy is it to come into work and give your best when you know that you don't have a place to sleep after you leave work? How easy is it to give your best when you know that, okay, there's no staff meal here and I don't even have food to eat when I leave here? It's easy for us to say, oh, give your best no matter what you're going through. No, and hungry, like a man that is hungry cannot give his best. Because I'm in a restaurant, I'm working, and I'm hungry. No, I think the earlier we leave a lot of these theories and start to face facts, the better. I'm in a restaurant, I'm working, and I'm hungry, but I'm serving food. And then we wonder sometimes why, when the food got to the guests, the plantain was no longer full. You know? And the guest is like, I bought this thing yesterday, I had 4 plantain, and the staff is looking like, sir, that's what they gave me from the kitchen. Because, of course, he was hungry, right? So we cannot continue to act like we do not realize the psychology of our workers. They want money, they want to be paid properly. And even though we're not encouraging anybody to do anything unethical, the truth is, people cannot give you like what they don't have. They are not so happy. They can't give your guests happiness. You know, they can't be very warm because they have so much more to deal with. And I think as an industry, we need to start looking at the rewards that we provide the people that work for us. until we start to do that, performance is not even going to be a conversation that we can have, because you're talking to a person and they're looking at you like, on this same 30,000. Because I feel like this is one industry that pays people without taking into consideration the cost of living. And I'm like, you know, I conducted an interview last week. We met with over 108 people, I remember. And there was a girl that came in and she sat down. And I said, oh, what's your salary expectation? She told me 40,000. I looked at her. And I said, where did you come from? She told me Aja, because I'm from Lagos. So I did a calculation. I said, how much did you pay to get here? She told me. I said, go and get a piece of paper. She sat down and I said, okay, calculate your transport. Let's say 26 days in a month. She did that. And I said, how much? Guess how much? It was over 42,000. And I said, you haven't eaten. I said, even if you're the most conservative person right now, with the cost of living, you are not going to be able, at least 500. Let's say you just do noodles and egg or bread and Coke. Coke is no longer 80 naira. It's not like 150. The last time I checked, 250. So even saying 500 naira is like almost impossible, but let's even say you spend 500 naira. I said times that by 30, because whether you're at work or not, you have to eat, right? She did the calculation. I said, okay, let's say you can manage, you know, you're not stressing yourself. You wash your hair once a month. We have not talked about toiletries. We have not talked about laundry. And then you complain that somebody is coming to work and they have body odor. Am I supposed to take from this money that is not even enough to buy a deodorant? What conversation are we having? So we cannot continue to reward our staff, right, without taking into consideration what it would take for them. You know, we cannot continue to reward our staff without taking into consideration what it would take for them to be comfortable. So I told the girl to go outside. She went outside, and I had a conversation with the owner of the business, because we're trying to staff over 50 people. And I said, this is not me trying to put unnecessary cost on your business, because we also have to look at the reality of the business owner, right? I said, but now, why don't we do this? Instead of hiring over 50 people, we cut it down to 35. Just so we are able to pay people properly, and guess what? They are going to do the job of 50 people if they are properly paid. So on the floor, we're planning to have 10 wait staff. Now it's 6. Because with that motivation, every other person is still paying 60,000, but we've taken ours up to 120. So my point is, if people are comfortable, I said, because even if you live in a thatch house, you know, there are those ones they have, and they say 100,000 a month, you still need to be able to put aside 10,000 naira in a month to pay that money at the end of the year. So I think, you know, for him, he thought about it, he was like, Benny, I'm not going to lie. Like, even me, I don't know how these people are surviving. Like, I ask myself, how? And then you wonder why they're saying, oh, sir, happy weekend. Because they have to find. We're not encouraging it. I can fire somebody immediately for doing that. But the happy weekend, anything for the boys, anything for the girls, is never going to go away. Because these people have needs. And if they don't do that, they're going to steal from you. We have to be very sincere. You know, because that's the reality. So we need to start looking at these things. And trust me, once we review the reward system, okay, let me even say this. A company called me a while ago. I'm not going to mention their name. They're one of the biggest clubs in Lagos. And I'm talking right now, with the current cost of drinks and stuff, easily 40 million a night. Lagos clubs, some do 50, 60. December, some were doing 100 per night. Million. Because a bottle of whatever before, I remember going to one and they said, oh, the cheapest champagne we have is 220. And that means you're looking at a minimum of 300% on each bottle. And then they called me that they needed wait staff. Okay, because like I said, I used to be a manager, but now I just enjoy staffing. I love staff. I love looking for staff. I love giving people jobs. It makes me happy. So I have a company on the side that provides that service. And I said, what's the salary? He said, 1.5 per night. And I said, no, I'm asking for the monthly salary. Maybe that's transportation. He said, no, we don't do salaries. That's what we pay. And I said, how is anybody supposed to survive on that? He now said, but that was before the fuel, whatever. He now said, Madam Benedicta, we can do 2,000 because it's your company. And this is an expatriate. And I told him straight, I said, I do not have slaves. I don't hire slaves. I said, because now you're telling me they work 3 days a week. You don't want any cost attached to the staffing. That's why you're doing casual, where you're paying every day. And then this person goes to the guests and they're closing tables of 5 million, 2 million, 3 million. Because that's also a place I go to, so I have an idea. The people that work for us, they can't be happy. They can't give, they are not even giving you anything. If anything, they're just looking at you like, but then some of them have to do the job because if not, there's nothing else. So we need to review our rewards in the industry so we can attract the right people. Even when I got the job of a manager, I saw the salary, I'm like, okay, I might need to work for 10 years to put together my school fees. So if that is the case, why will I spend money to develop myself? We have people and we're saying, oh, you're not developing yourself, you're not learning, you're not. Where's the data? How am I going to afford the data? To even go on YouTube and learn like a new skill or something. It's not there. So we can't keep asking from people what we haven't given them. Now, I have friends that are like project managers abroad, Scrum Master, all those things. They earn almost $100 an hour. So what's happening now is everybody is paying so much money to get trained and certified as project managers. What's my motivation to come to the hospitality industry when there are so many other places that will pay me so much more for less work? For less work. And I say this because we understand that there's no public holiday. We don't have weekends. When people are on vacation, we're working. So, like, when I saw this topic, I told Mr. Bengaya, you want to look for trouble. Because this is something that I've always talked about. And with the properties that I have set up, it's a conversation that I will have with the owners. It is important. We cannot separate it from the kind of people that we attract. We will keep getting the crumbs, except we do better. So, like I said, the psychology of the average Nigerian worker who's saddled with black tax, like there's family to be taken care of, my mom, my dad, there's the desire to improve his quality of life. He wants to be able to eat maybe 1 meal a day, you know. He wants to rise above poverty. And what does it mean for the employer and the businesses? There's no loyalty. There's no real interest in your job. These employees are available to the highest bidder. They will move to the next hotel for extra 3,000. Right? You know, poor job performance as they are burdened with the need for basic necessities. The basics, you know. They are burdened with those needs. And when your staff realize that their performance directly influences their rewards, they become more driven to strive for success. And it goes beyond benefiting only you and your business. There has to be something in it for them. So the key principles we need to look at, the rewards must be aligned. We must ensure that employees fully understand the criteria. It has to be fair and transparent. We have to consider their own needs and their preferences. We have to recognize both the small and the big achievements, because sometimes it takes those tiny ones to get to the big ones, you know. Then we have to incentivize teamwork, because even though we're trying to motivate them, we're not trying to get them to start a war in the office And hospitality is all about teamwork. So why don't you say, okay, this department, if you achieve this, you get this. Instead of saying, if you achieve this, then it becomes a tug of war, you know. So competition would then be in moderation, you know, and an overly competitive environment is not healthy. People can be, you know, tired, they can be unhappy because of the stress. And then from time to time, you have to review your rewards. What was beneficial last year is no longer beneficial because of the cost, you know, of living, and then what people want changes over time, you know. So for them, when they feel appreciated and recognized for their work, they are more engaged, you know, they have a sense of pride, there's a positive environment, and everybody is happy, and there's increased retention, which is good for you. So in conclusion, reward systems, they are not mere tools. They are the pillars of a thriving and productive workplace. Leveraging reward system as a catalyst for enhancing productivity in a business that is committed to serving people is a strategy that benefits every business leader. By designing and implementing effective systems that align with the organizational goals and values and the individual needs, we create a culture of high performance, employee satisfaction, and continuous growth. But we cannot stop there. Our landscape is ever evolving, and so should our reward systems. We should continuously evaluate and measure performance metrics and commit to ongoing improvement. You know, let us embark on this journey. Let us recognize the tremendous potential within our employees and reward their dedication, innovation, and their hard work. And by doing this, we ensure that our organizations remain at the forefront of the hospitality industry, delivering exceptional experiences and achieving success. Everyone seated here has the power to make a positive influence, and that's why we're having this conversation. I want to encourage leaders to pragmatically embrace the gift of rewarding small and large achievements to motivate employees. These simple acts, more than you know, can unlock their full potential and drive the hospitality business in Nigeria beyond the heights of excellent customer service. When your staff and your team members are rewarded, your customers will be happy because the people serving them are happy. And the true, you know, meaning of business success is when everybody gets a chance to win. Thank you so much.